Welcome to Rockstar Doctor Life. I'm Melissa Longo, and each episode, my guests and I will bring you fresh, fun ways to rock your life as a health professional and create a business that aligns with who you are and the life you want to live. Hey everyone, I am thrilled as always to be in a conversation with another amazing rockstar doctor. Joining me today is Dr. Nima. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Doc. I've been looking forward to meeting you and contributing.
Well, we've had, as usual, lots of great ideas have come up in our little pre-chat here, and I know we're going to get into some great content here today. But why don't you just start by telling everyone, who's Dr. Nima? What are you up to these days? You've been in practice for 18 years. So what does life look like for you right now?
Well, I've been in practice for 18 years, but 3 years ago, I just I decided I wanted to retire and just go all into teaching people how to get to the root cause of the root cause, stress related problems. I was tired of seeing people with stress related disorders and dealing with the end game, which is the physical manifestation. I always dreamed of going more upstream, dealing with stress and teaching people tools of transforming stressed out states into gratitude. Learning from my mentor, Dr. John Demartini, that was kind of the footsteps that I wanted to follow in. 3 years ago, I actually took that on and started my teaching and mentoring and practice and traveling the world and doing workshops, teaching people my kind of patented overview method, which is a distillation of John's work, John Demartini's method, and Byron Katie and Andrew Bernstein. And I kind of integrated everything that I've ever learned to give a very simple to follow self-inquiry tool to clear stress. And that was so fulfilling that I missed chiropractic. And I kind of came back into practice after selling my practice. And so now I work part-time as a chiropractor, helping people with the stress-related problems physically. And then I also have a coaching practice, both online and in live trainings, where I teach people how to get to the root cause of the root cause of the root cause, going all the way upstream and helping people connect to meaning, purpose, and clearing relationship challenges that are contributing to their stressed out states. So in a nutshell, it's the nervous system from the top down to the bottom up in healing.
Right. And so would you say that your transition into doing that kind of work, was it guided by what you were seeing in your practice?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody who's coming in, most of
Yeah.
them are coming in with stress related problems. And so in my own journey in dealing with anxiety, which was one of the things that I really was challenged by, I also had troubles because I was bullied in school. And so self-esteem became something for me that was a void. So just in that search for myself, I learned very powerful tools. And as the patients were coming in, and you get to know them, you get to know their lives, you get to become, really close and intimate when they share vulnerably their stories of their lives, then I start kind of trickling in little tools that I learned along the way. They'd come back and say, wow, I'm starting to feel much better. Whatever you told me there, whatever exercise you gave me was amazing. So I started to give myself permission to do these little workshops in my practice. And literally over the years, over a period of 10 years, they grew to international kind of workshops where I facilitate groups of people through the process. And it's extremely rewarding, extremely challenging, and calls me forward to consistently be congruent with the work that I'm teaching, which is one of the most challenging parts, yet most rewarding.
So it's like a lot of us as docs evolve with our practices, right? And so if you have children, sometimes you'll evolve in wanting to learn more about pediatrics, for example. So it sounds to me like your own personal story and your own experience with people in your practice evolved your own practice style. Now, do you find, this might be a big question, but is there a couple of things that you observe consistently with people that you could share with us?
Absolutely. Two things that are very consistent. And so these are the reasons why I really focus on these two things in particular. when you're coming in and you're asking about what's stressing them, the majority of the time is a relationship breakdown. There is a relationship limbo. Should I stay? Should I go? Or they've separated. There's a divorce. There's a breakdown relationally. Now, that relationship is not just necessarily a romantic partnership. It can go back to, specifically your parents, brothers, sisters, that kind of thing. So I started noticing patterns that what's stressing us often is relational, number one. And the other part is the work that we do. The majority of the time that where we spend, we want to be, and we are spending it in service to others when we're working at a job or, in your practice. The relationship between yourself and your work, if that's not in alignment, as well as your personal relationships aren't in alignment, that lack of integrity breaks down your psyche, causes you to activate your shadow, your dark passenger, the unworthiness, and it just downward spirals. And then the end result usually is your health. So the health problems can be tied to stress related problems, usually between relational problems or career issues. So when I saw these patterns again and again and again in my practice, I noticed that they were mirroring my own patterns in my life, going through a divorce, going through various relationship challenges, and having this existential crisis be in my career, knowing that I wanted to go deeper with my patients, but not having the time within the chiropractic visit to be able to do that. All of those existential and relational crises that I went through, that I've been working through, getting on the other side, every patient that comes in, those are the patterns. So what I discovered as far as the big picture pattern was the solution. The solution is to help somebody, when I personally, or help somebody connect their heart with meaning, connect their relationship with meaning, connect their career with meaning, connect their individual pockets of time, called 1 hour increments of time throughout my schedule, throughout my week. If I don't connect that, Melissa, to a meaning or a purpose or a cause that's greater than myself, the counter forces of the shadow, the dark passenger, our psyche, pull us down, and our habits run our lives. And so if I can really go to the big picture, it's all about connecting you day to day with meaning and purpose so that you have a context for your relationships and your career and your health. And it all boils down to that, which is our most primitive, most important search that we're called upon to do. And when you get that part right, you now are able to have the relationship, career, and health that it is that you're seeking, the most important things in our lives. It all comes down to getting out of victimhood and connecting ourselves with meaning.
Mm-hmm. Well said. It makes me think about a lot of the docs that I've spoken with, who have never really taken time to think about what they really want, right? Or who they really are. They just start, we graduate from school sometimes and you just start chasing these ideas of, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what sort of society or my parents or chiropractic expects of me, without really taking a minute to step back and go, well, wait a second, does that connect with who you are authentically? Does it really make sense with how you want to show up within your family, within maybe the other ways that you want to contribute to the world, maybe with charities you want to get involved in, their hobbies? Or does it really just make sense with the lifestyle that you want? And I think so it's clarity around understanding all of those pieces that gives you meaning, because I think sometimes, and I don't know what you think about this, but sometimes people chase the end result, but they don't really think about whether that end result is what they truly want.
You're talking about this illness that permeates society, which is the unconscious chasing of externals. Is that when I graduate and I get to this number, then I'm going to be happy. Then when I get to this number of success, then I'm going to be happy. Then when I get married, then I'm going to be happy. When I have kids, I'm going to be happy. And so we're chasing after these this is me. This is 100% why I've gotten into this now is because I found myself, when ego is running the show and you're operating from an unconscious motive of unworthiness and not enough, and you don't even know that it's there because you don't know what you don't know. Nothing that you achieve, Melissa, will ever actually be enough. You're going to hit that milestone and you got it, and then you end up there, which gives you a little bit of a temporary high. But then you go, all right, so why do I still have that empty feeling inside? Okay, well, maybe it's because my relationship isn't the right one. It's that person. She's just not, or he's just not, or she's just not fulfilling me anymore. And so maybe it's just time to move on. And then you go to a new relationship and it's like, oh crap. And it wasn't until I went through a few of these where I had to have this wake up call when I realized that I've been chasing after externals,
Mm.
things to fill what was missing inside, until I actually got down into the deep inner work, which is the stuff that I love sharing now, to be able to access who I really am, why I love what I love, why things are meaningful to me, and really get complete. And that journey really it calls upon us to delve into our early complexes, our abandonment issues, our challenges, and really take a look at that first half of your life and go, okay, so what were the unconscious motives that got me here? And unless you have a wake up call, you're not going to really ask these questions, I find. Wake up call in the form of a health crisis,
Yeah.
form of a relationship breakdown. The divorce is a good one that makes you go, what the hell? What's going on here? Health, relationships, or a financial setback is when people usually reach out to me and say, okay, so uh, I need to really see what got me here, and I'm ready to recreate myself the way that I want.
Hmm.
Find out who I really am.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously see this in our practices all the time, right? Some people wait until their problem gets, we're the last
Hmm.
resort for some people. They wait until things
Hmm.
are get really bad before they come into the office, and then you have
Yeah.
to try to help them understand wellness and prevention and that. But obviously, it can happen emotionally too. If there
Hmm.
are something, these are the consistent things that you're seeing with people, and I know obviously you offer whole day programming around this and one-on-one mentorship and consulting around this, but would there be anything specific, like a takeaway tool that listeners could get right now that would help them?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the foundation of everything. Is the name of the game is self-acceptance and self-love. Like, we don't even really know how often we are run by chasing after something to achieve so that we can finally get that feeling of self-acceptance. You don't realize that that's really the main thing. And it's really about your relationship with you. So your relationship with you starts with your nervous system. And if you don't have that nervous system regulated, you're operating in a space of dysregulation, anxiety, and your habits are running the show. And so the primary thing that we do is really nervous system regulation, breathing, taking a breath, and really connecting to sensation in the body. Um, the way that you get out of your head is to get into your body. Now, if I am constantly in my head chasing after goals, um, the thinking, the never-ending thinking, I don't have a chance to connect to who I am. I've completely disassociated from myself. So the work that I had to go through, and it was after a really big toxic relationship breakdown, where things got aggressive, things got volatile, and it was operating unconsciously for a while until there was a big wake up call. And it forced me to look and go, wow, I've been operating under nervous system dysregulation for the longest time. So I wasn't getting my adjustments. I wasn't meditating. I thought I was above the work to really bring myself from a disassociated state of thinking into felt sensation. So I had to really relearn how to rewire my nervous system. So obviously getting chiropractic adjustments, but really getting into breath, connecting with breath as often as possible. Like right now, as you're sitting here, you're paying attention to your breathing, and just take a moment to notice it. And what I observed, Melissa, was that 80% of the time I was shallow breathing, or just really just holding my breath. I wasn't actually breathing properly. That was contributing to my nervous system dysregulation. So as you're sitting here, pay attention to the breath, and you'll notice as you pay attention to it, even you as a listener, after a while, you'll notice that that relationship with the inhalation and exhalation starts to regulate. Because if you don't really do this consciously, you'll notice you're not taking deep breaths. You're not actually breathing. And the way that you breathe is how you think. Because this is what I learned. I had to literally go and regulate my nervous system in order to really get the foundation. This is the foundation of it all. Anything else that you learn, if you don't really get this, it's like putting a virus. It's like downloading software onto a hard drive with a virus on it. So it's not going to stick. So it starts right here, and it sounds so simple, but your breath is the connection between your conscious and your unconscious mind. So it's an unconscious process that when I bring into conscious awareness, I literally am regulating my nervous system. I'm activating my parasympathetics just with me becoming conscious of my breath. And when I do that, then I can then go into neuroception, where I start to pay attention to the way that my butt feels in the chair, the way my feet feel on the floor, the way that the temperature of the air feels on my skin. And this seems so trivial. I was like, when I was first learning this, I'm like, come on, what the hell is this crap? Like, seriously, give me something more than this. But it's so profound because I was not connecting with myself. When you say, come on, when you tell your clients, we got to connect you with who you are, it literally starts with your felt sense organs. It really starts with proprioception, with neuroception, with temperature on my skin, the way the butt feels on my chair, the conscious connected breathing. And when I do that, and I do it as often as possible, and I get into the body, then the mind quiets. And then what emerges is, after a while of doing that, what emerges is who you really are. I mean, there's a ton of work that's in the way of you connecting, namely your traumas from the past, your stories of resentment about your mother and father, or brother and sister, or uncle who might have abused you. There's other things in the way that's stopping you, which is some guilt and shame. Shame is the biggest one. So what I would do as far as takeaways, if you're listening, is to first and foremost, take time every day and every hour, little timer, really get into sensations and breath. Get into sensation and breath as often as possible. And then write down all of the constraints in your past as far as resentments, regrets, guilt, and shame. And those are now your windows of when you really attack those in a form of an inquiry to transform those resentments, regrets, and guilt and shame into self-love and gratitude, but not in an inauthentic way. When you go after those, what emerges is power and freedom. What emerges is self-acceptance and self-love. Then on the other side of that becomes your health. Then you're able to have great relationships, and you now are more deeply connected to your purpose, because your mess then becomes your message.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Getting out of your head by getting into your body.
100%.
That's my favorite line so far today.
Yeah.
I think
The way you get out of your head is to get into your body. And the biggest takeaway that I can give is the constant reminder. And this is the cool thing, is you're going to have to remind yourself of this every single day. It's a moment to moment choice. When I find myself getting into my head, getting into story, right away, I get back into sensation. I get into body. I get into breath, and then I get into intention, because you can't get into intention if you're disassociated from yourself. And the way that you reconnect to yourself is through your body.
Hmm. I feel like it's intuitively something that I say to people often, like, just, okay, hold on, just take some big breaths. Just like, so there's, it definitely grounds you and connects you a little bit more. Now,
Yeah.
you talked earlier about having sort of an existential crisis with your career, right? Or maybe
Yeah.
something allowed you to start to go, what do I really want to do here? Now, let's face it, probably a lot of docs listening, some of them might even be new grads that come out and go, okay, I've got this chiropractic degree now. What do I do? What do I really want to do? Or maybe it happens
Hmm.
5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road, where you start to question who you are as a doc or what you want for yourself. What was that
Hmm.
process like for you? And what would you say to anyone who's listening who might be feeling that way right now?
Wow. I can relate. Here's what I would say to them is I can relate to you. I always wanted to be a successful chiropractor like anybody else. And I met a woman by the name of Gwen who changed my life. She came in for a chiropractic appointment. She couldn't move. She had a hot disc herniation, couldn't move for months on painkillers. I started adjusting her, doing amazing, started healing. It was awesome. And one day she no shows for an appointment. But here's the thing, during her appointment, her initial appointment, sorry, I live close to the hospital here. There's always a ambulance driving by, if you can hear that. Um, what happened was that she had this long laundry list of medications she was taking for stress, anxiety, high blood pressure, blood sugar stuff, all sorts of stuff. And she had a long ass story of suffering from her past, which I never addressed. I didn't address it. I just kind of kept it as it is. And lo and behold, after a few weeks, she got better. Holy cow. Her life was totally changed. And then she no shows for an appointment, and we call her, and her husband answers the phone and says, unfortunately, Gwen died of a heart attack today, this morning. And I was like, oh. So I had all of this information that I've been studying just for myself, my own personal development in life skills for a stressful world. And I wasn't actually sharing this with my patients. I was just kind of on a one-on-one basis. But after losing Gwen as a patient, I was like, okay, so I'm going to give myself permission to start teaching. So I started creating these little workshops in my practice. So we're talking within 3-4 years of practice. So we're like 15 years ago. It started with doing talks. And I just found that I loved sharing. And pretty soon, if any docs are listening and they can really relate and resonate, is that after a while, the talks, they weren't just for the patients, they were for me as well, because it really re-dipped me into inspiration and purpose. And I liked who I became when I taught. It called upon me, my higher forces. It called upon me to live what I'm teaching. It called upon me to get me to expand to greater levels of myself. So I liked who I became when I was teaching, and when I wasn't teaching, I wasn't really as inspired by the work that I was doing. So it was a way of keeping me inspired. Plus, it also touched upon my core wounds of feeling insignificant and not seen and not heard growing up.
Hmm.
So if I could be vulnerable and real, when I was teaching, I actually felt seen and heard. So it was both an altruistic reasoning that I love teaching and a narcissistic reason why I love teaching. So once
Hmm.
I really gave myself permission and integrated that both were being served in that moment, that's when I felt most powerful. When I was like, you know what, I'm getting just as much out of this teaching as you are. And I really was able to say, you know what, this helps me. And I would tell people, I feel heard, I feel seen, I feel significant because I'm making a difference. That's why I love teaching so much. And like this is what's in it for me, and I get to really get re-inspired by the message of what chiropractic is and what healing is really all about. So anybody who's listening and who wants to get there, just get real connected with your dark side. This is part of the teachings that we do in our process, in our powerfully aligned program, is really getting you able to dance with your dark side, that part of you, that ego, that wounded inner child, within you that feels not seen, not heard, insignificant, which is probably why you became a chiropractor in the first place. Because not only did you have a healing experience with a chiropractor, probably, but it also allows you to feel that significance that maybe you didn't have when you were younger. And it serves both, it serves both kind of sides of the pendulum. So really owning your shadow and getting complete with your core wounds will enable you to have power to be able to step up and serve at a greater level. Without really completing your past, your future doesn't get designed as beautifully.
Powerful.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
No, absolutely. I think
So
it's really important for people.
in other words, when people are coming to me and they're like, okay, I'm stuck in career limbo. I don't know what my next move is. I don't know what my, if I should stay or I should go. These are the questions. These are the big problems that I love solving because I went through them myself with the divorce and a career move. So the relationship and career limbo, where they don't know whether they should stay or they should go, wherever that is. The way that you overcome that is by scaring the crap out of yourself, making a declaration, and upgrading yourself by going back into your past complexes and getting whole and complete with them. And not just, I forgive you, mom, I forgive you, dad. No. That's incomplete. If you feel that you have to forgive somebody, you're still not complete with it. We're talking next level shit, like gratitude.
Yeah.
An authentic form of that. And so the way that you design the future is by going into the past and rearranging all of the scripts and the stories and the narratives to having you be that hero so that you can then move forward with power and freedom.
Very inspiring. And I can tell that it's, you're doing work that you personally are really aligned with, because I love that you say like it's healing for you as the doc, right? Going through this journey with people, right? What keeps you inspired day to day? Is there anything that you are listening to, any mentors that you're working with, anything you're reading, like anything that keeps you fired up?
What keeps me inspired each and every day is to have a mentor. Because I'm investing in my higher self. It's what keeps me inspired is realizing that sometimes I just don't feel like doing it, and it's difficult, and it doesn't always feel good, and I don't feel like it sometimes. And what keeps me inspired is connecting to my mission statement every day. I have it written. I have it. Not only did I write it out, but I actually, and I get all my clients to do the same thing. I voice record myself doing it. It's a 7-minute audio clip. And I listen to myself of who I am in this world, what I do and what I have. And even in my darkest moments, when there's no evidence around me that any of this is actually working, I still connect to it. And I notice that just the longevity and the commitment to connecting with that, I pull through, and my visions and dreams are actually manifesting. So what keeps me inspired is A, having a mentor, and B, having a mission statement that's congruent with and aligned with my values that I can turn to each and every day. And what keeps me inspired is every single time I'm inauthentic, or I'm withholding a truth, or I'm not being real with myself or somebody else, I do the difficult thing of calling out the incongruency and inauthenticity, because getting back into my truth is inspiring. And my ego wants to withhold the truth and to hide and to pretend and to defend and to blame others and to look good and to be right. And my constant commitment, and when I don't keep that in check through myself and feedback, then I lose my inspiration, because I lose connection to soul and higher forces. So what keeps me inspired is my commitment to calling myself out, calling my ego out, my ego, pride, and greed, and my need to look good and to be right, and to just consistently call that forward keeps me re-inspired. And it's not easy.
I know,
but it's
a lot of
self-reflection,
self-awareness that, to be honest, we should all be doing consistently, and
well,
checking
and your
in with
health
ourselves,
depends on
right?
it. Your
Yeah.
health depends on it. Your relationships depend on it. Your business depends on it. Every problem that I've ever had in my business has been a personal problem. Every problem that I've had in a relationship has been an issue with myself and my relationship with my wounded little boy inside, that doesn't feel seen and heard and is wanting the other person to give what I'm not giving to myself. So self-responsibility and commitment, and really just having fun with it, knowing that I'm a work in progress and I'm not going to always get it right. And it's in through the mistakes, through the failures, that I can actually then go, okay, all right, that hurt. How can I learn and grow from that?
Yeah. True enough. No, so how, this makes me think about self-care, right? And
Yeah.
self-love, right? Which is a big piece of what you've been talking about. But what do you do? Do you have other rituals, or do you have, days where you, I don't know, go and just enjoy some hobbies or do other things
Yeah.
that just fuel you? How important do you think that is for
Yeah.
people?
Well, I just went skiing in Whistler for the last kind of weekend of my season this weekend. Um, it's critical that you do things that activate your prefrontal cortex. What that is for you, you're going to have to find out. For me, it's dancing. For me, it is skiing, like spending time in nature. For me, it's actually teaching, answering questions. For me, it's scaring the crap out of myself and hitting Facebook Live and just going unscripted. Is doing things that are unscripted, is going and doing talks. I've now reached a level of mastery with my teaching, like in my group calls and stuff like that, where I don't go in with any agenda now. I go in fully trusting in myself to be able to serve the person in front of me, and being in a flow-like state. So whatever habits and rituals that you can do that help you access that flow state being like it's kind of like you're surfing. When you surf or when you're skiing, you go, you don't know what, it's not predictable what you're doing. What you're going is to go and dance with the unknown, the unpredictable. I don't know how the snow is going to be. I don't know how the conditions, but I'm going to be gliding and dancing with the moment. I'm going to be surfing and I don't know what the conditions are, but I'm going to catch a wave and I'm going to respond to the moment. So I do that when I'm teaching. So your work, the work of every human being, in order to really strive for mastery of self and health and really the full life experience, is to find out what that is for them. That thing is for them where they are literally on the edge, dancing in the moment, not with an agenda, but just playing with what the universe is giving them in that moment. So for some people it's driving, for some people it's golf, for some people it's playing with their grandkids. So that's the ultimate form of self-care, is doing what puts you in a flow-like state,
Mm-hmm.
and doing it again and again and again and again.
Yeah, it makes you happy. Usually they go together, right? Things that bring you joy, things that make you laugh, things that make you feel like you're playing and enjoying the sweet moments in life that make it all matter.
That needs to be scheduled in your day.
Yeah.
That requires you to be scheduled. So many of my clients, prescription that I give them is paint, go paint, go and play with your because I know that is exactly what's most important to them, most meaningful. So we just get them aligned with what that is.
Yeah. You're talking my language. I make time to have fun every day.
We speak the same language. That's
Yeah.
right.
So I want to thank you for your time. I've certainly enjoyed our conversation here today. And I know that listeners will gain a tremendous amount of value from today's conversation. Obviously, listeners, if you want to connect with Dr. Nima, just check out the show notes. There's all of his links to any upcoming programs he has, or how you can just follow him and find him and learn more about how you can go inside and heal some of your own, wounds, or the things that might be holding you back from expressing your fullest potential, whatever that may look like in your career, in your relationships, in your overall health. And I wish you all good things moving forward, Nima. It's exciting to watch.
Thank you so much. I want to leave you with this. If you're in a limbo state with your relationship or career, the way that you clear that path is to go into your past and clean up the incongruencies and inauthenticities. And when you do that, the way is literally paved for you. We do this. We've seen it again and again. It's reproducible, and it takes courage. and there's nothing more worthwhile, because the alternative is completely unbearable, to not deal with that stuff and to live in that state of limbo and not choose.
Yes. Yes. Very well said. Thank you again for your time, and have an awesome rest of your day.
You too. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's show. Find out more about today's guests and everything else that we talked about in the show notes. You can also find all this content and so much more, including videos, blog posts, and how you can work with me on the Rockstar Doctor Life website. If you haven't yet reviewed the show, we'd love it if you headed on over to iTunes, subscribe, and leave us a review about what your thoughts are about future episodes for the show and what you like best. Feel free to connect with me on Instagram at Melissa Longo DC, and of course on Facebook. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.